Welcome to the Pop Cult Online Power Hour, the video podcast dedicated to the 10-year-old in all of us, and I'm your host, Rick Gordon. Join me and Malibu Bob Breetall as we go down a rat hole the size of the Sony hacking scandal. But we'll be right back after these brief messages.
Get a video game for Christmas! It's Crazy Eddie's greatest Christmas sale ever! And Crazy Eddie's going video game crazy for Christmas with the absolute lowest prices anywhere in all your favorite video games. Atari Odyssey 2 and Television, Astrocade, Vectrex, Arcadia, ColecoVision. Crazy Eddie's got them all! All the latest game cartridges too! All at the absolute lowest prices anywhere. Crazy Eddie's your video game center, the only place to buy video games and game cartridges. So get a video game for Christmas now! You're in Crazy Eddie's greatest Christmas sale ever! His prices are insane!
A beautiful Christmas at Sears. Now through Saturday only, save 33% on stretch denim Robux jeans for men, now $15.99 a pair. Or flannel shirts and an assortment of plaids, just $9.29 each. There's $8 off this 40-drawer parts organizer with dividers, $9.99. Save $100 on this 10-watt mini hi-fi stereo featuring cassette play record with Dolby, now $199.95. Save $5 to $10 on selected video arcade cartridges. Sears stores open early Friday.
Just going to load this CD. They're going to love this. Loading CD-ROM into Windows.
Type device equals C:\DOS.
Wait. Okay. Where do I find that?
Where do you find what? Type edit //
Edit a colon?
No, edit A colon. A colon.
A colon.
The letter A.
You do not have enough conventional memory free. There are 27 callers ahead of us.
If you're looking for a multimedia computer that actually works...
Maybe we got the wrong installation program.
Maybe we got the wrong computer.
There's really only one way to go.
Did you save the receipt?
Okay.
Hello. So, how are things out in sunny California?
I got various things to talk about this week.
Okay.
A couple of them are rants.
Okay.
First one being how much the U.S. Postal Service sucks. Sorry for any of you who work for the U.S. Postal Service out there, but you suck.
Now, what brought this on?
As a general institution, not like individual postal workers. I'm sure there are many, many great individual postal workers. But you know as well as I, like sometimes you'll have the mailman who takes your package and brings it up to your door and lovingly handles everything. Mm-hmm. Other times you get the jag-off who takes it and throws it at the curb and drives off down the street. That's not the specific issue that I have right now. Although my current postman does tend to take anything that can be folded in half and crammed into my mailbox. That's what they do.
Oh, wow.
So, I need to make sure, if I can get a priority mail envelope and they will bend it and stuff it in the mailbox.
Oh, my God.
And writing "do not bend" on something is like almost an encouragement for them to bend it.
Don't say that, because I do that all the time when I send packages.
You need to send stuff in a box that cannot be bent. That is the only way to prevent it from being bent and crammed someplace, depending on the mail carrier that you happen to get. I mean, I'm sure many, many mail carriers are right. Now, my specific issue this time is, and I don't want to talk about explicitly what I got, but I got a big book, a significant comic, and it was sent priority mail today, registered mail.
Wow, okay.
Insured and all that kind of stuff. Handed off to the post office December 4th. Look at your calendar.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. So it's registered mail, and I look at the tracking on it. It was handed to the post office in Federal Way, Washington, which is essentially Seattle.
Yep.
On the 4th. The next status that's on my tracking number for it is that it made its way to the Seattle airport on the 8th.
Wow.
So between the 4th and the 8th, it made it maybe 10 miles or something.
Yeah, you're not exaggerating. It's
You're familiar with that area, right?
Right, yeah.
And then 2 a.m. on December 8th, it left Seattle. It was scanned out, and there is no status on it since then.
Wow.
So I called this morning, and I opened an inquiry into it, into this package and the person I talked to, assured me that, registered mail is, treated very carefully and it's always locked up and, it wasn't missing. It was just what she told me actually was it's fairly pointless to send registered mail 2-day priority because they just don't move registered mail that fast because of all the controls they have on it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So but they'll cheerfully take your money.
Oh, of course.
For 2-day priority mail, right? Because it's pretty much a suggestion, that, well, it may get there in 2 days, but if it doesn't get there in 2 days, as I sit here almost a week later, right?
Well, they didn't say Earth days.
Yeah, days on the planet or the ex-planet Pluto, let's say, or more applicably on Uranus. That would be a long time. So anyway, I'm still waiting. They're supposed to get back to me by tomorrow, but I'm very frustrated.
You're dealing
them.
with Seattle? Okay.
I just called the U.S. Postal Service in general, their customer service number, and opened an inquiry.
I've been doing the eBay thing for a while now, and I've probably shipped out 600-700 packages over the last 4 or 5 years. My feedback is excellent, except for one idiot from last year, but we'll get into that later. I have only had a package returned to me once, and it was from Seattle. A customer of mine had bought a Barbie doll case, just like a little vinyl case that you put your Barbies in, and it's got a handle, and you take it with you. I have sold many of these over the years, have shipped them, and never had a problem. The woman sent me a frantic email that the package got there, and the postal carrier demanded an additional $40 on top of the postage she had paid. And I told her that does not sound right at all. These things go by weight. I've sent this out many a times. This is the going price in that zone. So, I told her to talk to the post office, see if you can straighten it out. If not, just send the item back. So she got the runaround at the Seattle post office. they had her in tears. And she sent the package back, and the package was just covered with notes and writing. And apparently it was the size of the box and some other... I get these boxes from eBay for free, and sometimes they say regional, sometimes they say flat rate. Wasn't really paying attention, so I shipped it out as priority by weight. It said flat rate, but for that region, it came to an additional $40. So basically what I had to do is take the package, wrap it in brown paper, put the label back on it, and it went right back out to her. So fuck the U.S. Postal Service. And I said that. I don't care. I'd rather see them go away and have UPS and FedEx take over, because those guys are great. I've never had an issue with those guys.
Arguing that just last week before this incident that, the Postal Service does a fine job, nowhere else you're going to get a 30, 40, 50, whatever cent mail, of a letter out and everything. But, I order stuff on Amazon Prime all the time. that stuff shows up on my door 2 days later, like
if not sooner,
from UPS. And here I get something sent priority registered mail, which should be the most bulletproof kind of thing that you can get. The tracking is non-existent. I mean, to me, it's like when there is a departure scan on December 4th, no other scan, no other information until December 8th when it's 10 miles farther along the way. And then that is 2 days. It's another 2 days on to now, and it still has not had another update. What the hell? Where is this package at?
It's stuck to the bottom of a People magazine in the post office break room.
I mean, and that's absolutely not supposed to happen.
Right.
I mean, it's got insurance and everything, so
that's not the point. The point is, you paid for a service and. Priority registered. You'd expect a guy with a valise to show up with it handcuffed to his wrist.
The ironic part is while I was on hold, waiting to talk to the customer service this morning, one of the ads that's playing for me is, if you have a valuable or irreplaceable item, make sure you send it registered mail. It's just like the different, certified mail, we just make sure it gets a scan, but registered mail, if it's irreplaceable, send it registered mail because that will be, and I'm like, okay, I suppose.
Well, here's my other beef with the post office.
Irony was not lost on me when they picked up the phone a couple of minutes later after that ad played.
my regular carrier is a great guy. We get along great. When it's hot out, I give him a nice cold water. He takes care of me. He puts the packages where I want. The guy is top notch. Now, I don't have a mailbox per se. Everything comes on my front porch. You remember how my house was.
Yeah.
There's a little mail slot on the porch door. If it's something big, he puts it inside, and he puts it in a specific place. And if he sees something, he takes it. Now, you can schedule a pickup through the USPS app on your phone. Sometimes I forget. If it's after midnight and you want to have it sent out the next day, you're kind of out of luck. And I don't have a little red flag I can put up to signify that I have packages waiting to go out. If it's my regular guy, he'll see it there, he'll take it, no worries. If it's anybody else, I've had instances where they just leave them or they knock them over to put the regular mail there. And that just drives me absolutely crazy. I never have issues like that with UPS or FedEx. Those guys are, even DHL. All these guys are great.
Yep.
Speaking of which, I came home because it's Christmas season. I do most of my shopping online. But I got myself a little something. I don't know if you can see this. Yes, kids, it's a vinyl LP.
Cool.
The Adventures of the Fantastic Four, Marvel Comics radio series. It's a double LP. I haven't listened to it yet, but featuring the voice of Bill Murray, famous comedian, as Johnny Storm. So I didn't even know this thing existed until a few weeks ago. So when I heard about it, I immediately went online and grabbed myself a copy. Should be pretty neat. I'm getting back into vinyl for some reason.
You're old.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Ooh,
I got these in the mail today.
Oh, nice.
These are they sent me these as little perks along with a couple of posters for the book and a couple of extra timelines. You remember that big timeline?
Yeah, I love that.
I showed you. This is the Italian and French translations.
Awesome.
So I guess if they go, they got the, this is Italian. You can see it there. And then you got the French version here.
How do you say true believer in French?
But this is kind of a cool, they didn't translate the words on the actual, comic pages or anything, but they do have some. I don't know if on the actual book they have the different language things, but I mean here it's just all the text is just all crammed into this, and it's got all that kind of stuff. Actually, I should look at the back and see if the note of the editors is in here. They've got actually a little a comic strip in the back. It doesn't appear like it's got my credit in here. I'm not seeing my name in French or anything. Because my name's in the back of the regular book. Nope. So, shafted in France. Probably I'm imagining in Italy.
Maybe you'll have better luck in Italy.
Yeah, they just have the top half of the page. They don't have the other credits because they put credits for the front and back covers, which are different. The photographic credits here because they've got an ad reproduced on the back cover. They've got some stuff on the inside. This Spider-Man.
That's cool.
That's here. So it's fun. I have enjoyed. I saw Stan and Roy last Friday.
Yeah.
In Beverly Hills. Went to the signing. It's kind of funny because, when I got the invite, they sent me a VIP invite. I had stuff in the book, but they did say, "Look, we're only signing the book." So they don't want people bringing a big stack of comics, and and only one copy per person.
Right.
So.
Well, I guess that kills my next question.
Yeah. So I brought my copy, and actually I brought a couple of people with me, and they each had a copy. But I got a couple of people in. So I showed up, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be really crowded. Get there early and everything." And it was Friday. It was up in Beverly Hills, and I'd better go early because otherwise I'm going to be sitting in Friday afternoon traffic, and who knows, right? So I left after lunch, and I drove up there, and I got there in like a little over an hour, so it wasn't bad at all. And met the other two guys up there, and so I went into the Taschen store, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm here for the signing. I was supposed to be on the list," and they look at this list and your name's not here. And I'm like,
God.
And we're sold out. We can't have any more people, except people who are on the list,
Oh, no.
You're supposed to RSVP for this thing. And I'm like, well, I thought I did RSVP. So I'm like desperately calling people, that I know that I had worked with there. And when I got a hold of Josh, who's the editor and designer for the book, he got a hold of his office person, and they straightened it out for me. It was basically they had printed out the regular RSVP list and had it at the front of the store, but they didn't print out the contributors list, which is all the VIPs. So I was on that list. Anyway, so Josh, the guy, Josh told me, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it. I'm going to get there around 5. If you're there at 5, call my cell and I'll make sure I, bring you." So we just went and hung around. We walked around, and I've lived in LA my whole life, or the suburbs of LA, but I've realized I have never actually gone to Rodeo Drive and Beverly Boulevard and all these places up in Beverly Hills where all the. So we just kind of hung around. We were walking around. We saw Kelsey Grammer's walking down the street with shopping bags. We saw Brent Spiner. There's just people just wandering around doing their high-end shopping there in Beverly Hills. And, we found this little courtyard in between a couple of shops, and there were tables and chairs. We got some coffee and tea and just sat there and chatted for a couple hours. And there was a fountain, and there were cops all over the place. I mean, it's just like foot cops that you never see. And I just like, I guess they're there to make sure nobody screws with the rich people, just amazing. The amount of police that are just wandering around to like keep things in line there.
And while you're doing this, like, I'm shoveling snow. So continue your story.
Yeah. So, we go back at 5:00, not much of a line. So we walk in. Now my name on the, Josh is there. My name's on the list. All's fine. I go. We got the line going. It's in the shop. And I was maybe about 15, 20 people back in the line. So it's not bad. So we went in, we stood there, we had our books, and we're just kind of hanging around. We're talking to their people in line. And the Toshin people, they come up the line. They've got like Perrier water and cans of beer and imported beer, and like, oh, would you like some drinks while you wait in line? And they came several times, it's just giving out drinks while we stood. I mean, it was the nicest line I've ever stood in for a signing. And then a little bit before Stan comes, his handler comes along to make sure, it's like, don't look Stan directly in the eye, don't do this, don't do that, all the rules on like how not to, get in Stan's hair. And it turned out Stan is the nicest guy in the world. It's all these people who are around Stan. Mm-hmm. Their job is to keep people the hell away from Stan. Right. Because Stan will say yes to anything. So they just pretty much try to, diffuse that as much as possible. They don't want people whipping out a stack of, Spider-Man #1s or something and getting Stan to sign them or something. Because he would pull out his pen and start signing them, right? So I get up and, there's a guy standing before that who makes sure your book is out and that it's opened, and, and the line went really fast. I mean, we were at Stan and Roy it started at 6:00, and we were there like 10 after 6. We're up.
Oh, wow.
It was just like, I mean, they're just like moving people through. So I'm like obeying the rules. I'm being nice. I'm not, like infringing myself on Stan. But then Josh comes up and he's like, Stan, this is the guy who has the Guinness World Record for most comics, and he contributed a lot of the books, that we photographed for this. And then Stan gets up and he's like, oh, hi, how many comics are in the world record? And I told him, I got like 95,000. Oh, that's a lot of comics. This book here should count for 5,000. They should give you an even 100, And, he's being nice. Then Roy started talking to me a little bit. And apparently behind me, I didn't see it, but Josh told me after, like, the Stan's handlers are giving, daggers in their eyes, just giving him the look of doom for, like, engendering some interaction, between Stan and one of his fans. But it was fun, so and then we left and went on about our way. But, apparently they were done by like 6:30 or so, and Stan left at 6:45. It was supposed to go for an hour because they moved the line so fast and did such a, job of, shooing away people that weren't on the list that there really wasn't, so it's like, it probably could have, but, it wasn't Toshin. It was like Stan's people were.
Yeah. It would have been nice to be able to chat with him for a few minutes. I mean,
this
is what, your fifth time seeing him?
Yeah, like my fifth time. The first time I saw him was at the first Long Beach Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. And that was before he was big Stan Lee, right? And at that signing, there were maybe only 50, 75 people in line.
Wow.
And when I came up, I had brought my Amazing Spider-Man 88, which was my first comic that got me collected. That's what I brought to get signed. So
something I brought that.
And that's exactly what happened. When he got it, he's like, wow, I haven't seen this comic since I wrote it. You know, it's like, what? And he asked, you know, it's like, what caused you to get this one signed? And I told him, you know, like, this is the first comic I remember buying off the rack, and I've been buying Spider-Man ever since, and that got me into Marvel comics, which got me into other comics, and, you know, I've been collecting and reading comics every month since this came out, and I bought it off the stand. And he liked that, and he's like, oh, come around, get a picture with me. And he offered, and, you know, someone took a picture of us. That was that picture you see where Stan's got his arm around me. Mm-hmm. And it was just, that was really nice, right? The next time I saw him, I brought my FF97, which was the first FF comic that I got. Mm-hmm. And he signed that, and it was the same. Actually, it was like the next year, maybe, or maybe it was even the same year. I think the first time I saw him was at Long Beach Comic Con, and then I saw him at San Diego. And same kind of thing. It was like, what? You know, and I told him, and it wasn't as long of a conversation, but I mean, he didn't remember me. But, you know, it's like he sees so many thousands of people.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But, you know, same kind of thing. It is when you bring him something that's not like the standard one, he will usually ask, you know, oh, well, why do you know, get this one signed? Or at least back then he did. I mean, now it's like people bring him. I see people bringing him crazy stuff to get signed that he had nothing whatsoever to do with.
That doesn't make sense.
Other than it just says Stan Lee Presents on the comic. I mean, I see people bringing him Hulk 181, and the dude had zero to do with creating Wolverine, you know, and he didn't write the book. He didn't create Wolverine. You know, he created the Hulk, but he didn't write that issue, and by that point, I doubt he even edited or did anything with that.
Yeah, he was probably out in California by then. Yeah, I think those people are just doing that to raise the value of something.
Oh, yeah. You know, that's the thing. It's, you know, just get the Stan signature on it, sad. You know, but, you know, I've seen that and just other stuff like that, you know, where people bring like some Wolverine comic of some sort. And it's just like, well, Stan didn't write any of those. He didn't create the character. He didn't write it. You know, it's like bring a Stan Lee comic to get signed by Stan Lee. You know, there's so many of them. Anyone should be able to get their hands on a Stan Lee comic book somewhere.
Wow, that's cool. You get to see Roy, though. I mean,
yeah, Roy's tough, right?
Yes.
But the next time I saw him, I fell to the standard where I brought my Avengers #1. Mm-hmm. To have him sign. And that was a weird one. It was like it was a signing sponsored by some booth that was selling t-shirts, and as long as you bought the t-shirt with the Stan Lee on it, you know, it was like a Stan Lee t-shirt, you know, something like My Hero is Stan Lee or something like that. I don't know, it was like $15 or something like that. But if you bought the t-shirt, then you could get a Stan Lee signature on a comic of your choice. One comic per t-shirt. I bought a t-shirt. It was I liked the t-shirt anyway, you know. And then I got my comic signed. But that was he had moved into, by that point, he had the entourage of people who, you know, like, you stand here, we'll give your comic to Stan.
Yeah.
And again, I think it was because they didn't want people pulling extra comics out of their bag or something like that. The next time I saw him was when he was doing that POW Entertainment thing.
Yeah.
And at that one, they were not, in fact, I've got it right here. I kind of kept it. Here's my, here's like Stan Lee comics. He was only signing this thing. Mm-hmm. So I had him sign the back of it.
Nice.
I figured I could probably just cut it out and then like paste the signature, you know, use like whatever. I could stick it into my Fantastic Four omnibus or something, you know.
Yeah,
what the hell do I want a Stan Lee signature on whatever these lame comics were from POW Entertainment that I don't think ever actually came out. The Condor, you know, I was like,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So that was that one, and I think there was one other time I saw him because I have another picture of him. Maybe that was the time when I got the FF signed. I have a picture of him at San Diego. I think that was, and I didn't get in the picture. I took actually there was a guy dressed as Spider-Man.
Oh, that's cool.
I've got that.
And we'll be right back after these messages.
This is back when you had film cameras.
Hey, there
I've
you
got
go.
an actual.
I like that.
So, you know, they had the guy playing Spider-Man. In fact, what was this? It's August 14th, 1999
Okay.
is when this was printed. So that would have been the 1999 San Diego Con
Cool.
that I got that one done. So, you know, that was fun, you know. So I've seen Stan a bunch of times, but that was the first time I saw Roy.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Roy, I thought Roy lived out here, but apparently he lives in South Carolina now. And
Yep.
they flew him out for the signing.
I ran into Roy at, I think, New York at the Tomorrow's booth. And just got to talk to him real quick because I was just running around and say, "Hey, Roy, how you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. I actually got a hold of him through somebody else, and we emailed back and forth when I was the previous incarnation of the podcast, when I was doing the history editions and interviewing creators. He was right at the top of my list and had everything set up and went to get the show going, and he's like, "Who is this? Have I talked to you before?" And the email was threaded, so it was all there. So I don't know what the deal was. Maybe he just didn't want to be interviewed. So I'll just keep plugging away. I'm gonna get to him eventually. That's he's one of the top 5 that I want to get down. So Stan being the other one, but eventually.
Stan is a tough one because
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to talk to Stan, you know.
Yeah, but I wouldn't talk to him about his superhero stuff. That's my angle. I talk about the other stuff. I'd talk about his westerns and his romance and all the other fun books that he did that nobody talks about.
If I talked to him, I would want to talk to him about what it's like to work with these other creators, which I figured that's not, and it's not for an interview. If I just, I was almost like, if you could have a beer with anybody, just sit down.
If you could have dinner with Stan, that would be perfect.
Yeah. If it was Stan, and that's what I would do. I mean, I don't want to hear the stock story about how he saw a fly on the wall and created Spider-Man, that he has honed these stories over the years and he kind of just cranks them out. I'd be more like, tell me about John Romita.
Right, exactly.
With John Romita. And tell me about Gene Colan.
Exactly.
And
how did you guys meet? Who's your favorite
tell me about
artist?
some of these the brainstorming sessions where you would plot out some of these comics with the artists in the room and how that would go. That's more what I would want to hear about, and not just the standard stuff that everybody always asks. And I've seen all that stuff so many times.
Yeah. Maybe we could set that up. Me and you, dinner with Stan.
Dinner with Stan.
Dinner with Stan.
That's I keep on hinting to Josh on it because he goes over to Stan's office, when he's working on this book, and he's like, I'm like, dude, I'm so jealous, because he's like, yeah, when I go in and it's just me and Stan, he's like the nicest guy, and we talk about stuff. When when Stan's handlers are not there, filtering, the interaction with Stan, he's just the pleasantest guy, and you have a nice conversation with him. But whenever it's in an event kind of format and he's got his entourage there, they just, they feel that it is their purpose to keep him as distant from the people as they can. And it's just kind of bizarre. It seems like, they might get, 25% fewer people, to have this non-interaction with, or maybe even if they'd have half as many people getting this non-interaction with Stan, then, but then they could have a memorable interaction with them like I had
right.
And even when I had that interaction with them at Long Beach, I mean, I was mindful of the other people in line. I maybe spent 2 minutes start to finish talking to Stan, maybe 3 by the time I walked around the table and had the picture and everything. But I mean, it was not a significant drain on the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it like the normal things, because now when he's just like cranking out the signatures and they're all just getting immediately handed off to the CGC people,
Yeah.
They charge it's like a huge industry. I mean, I think it's at Kamikaze, it was something like $80 or something like that for an autograph.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like big bucks. You can't just, that's why this Toshin thing was really nice, because if you RSVP'd and got on the list, they didn't, you had to have a copy of the book.
Right.
And the book is a big expensive book, but it's a really nice book, and they weren't charging for Stan and Roy's signature. It's like Toshin,
okay, cool.
Toshin was eating the expense of it, and I'm sure they had to pay Stan an appearance fee, and but they sold out of every single book that they had in the store.
Wow.
It actually turns out that they had told me only 1 copy per person.
Mm-hmm.
But if people were willing to buy 5 copies, they were selling them. I mean, as long as everybody in line had their copy, they were selling extra copies to whoever wanted extra copies. So if people were buying those extra copies, I think, so I'm sure they sold, they had like huge stacks of these books there, hundreds. So I mean, I'm sure they had to cover the the appearance fees, and I'm sure they flew Roy out there nice plane ticket and everything, first class, and I can't imagine they wouldn't, especially if they're like going up and down the line, with like just people handing out Perrier and beer and stuff to the people just waiting on line for their free autograph.
I
nice.
wonder about the thing I wonder about Stan the most is how much you see him everywhere now, and he seems to be on the go. And the guy's what, 94?
I think 93 maybe.
Well, how much of this is his handlers just pushing him? And I would love to sit down with him at dinner and say, Stan, what do you really want to do right now? I mean, you've done everything you've wanted to do, as far as I can tell. I mean, what if you could do anything? What would you be doing right now? I doubt it would be running around to these conventions and signings. I don't know.
I think he likes the adulation, because now he makes a public appearance.
Mm-hmm.
When he comes out, there's just zillions of people, and they're applauding him, and everyone that comes up tells him. I mean, because if you're one of these hardcore Jack Kirby dudes who thinks Stan is the devil, right?
Kurt Green.
You know those people exist, right? Those people are not showing up at a Stan Lee signing, right? It's like they're not going to go to a Stan Lee signing. The people who go to a Stan Lee signing like Stan Lee, and he just drinks in the agile. I think that keeps him young, because I mean, man, for someone as old as he is, I mean, he's very sprightly. I mean, he's moves up there. I mean, he's not doing handsprings or anything, but he's he moves along nicely up to himself. When I saw him out at Kamikaze a month or so ago, he'd walk out on the stage. There was this huge mass of people out in the audience, and they're all yelling, Stan, and it's like every time he went out, they brought him out 2, 3, 4 times a day.
adulation of the crowd. He'd go and he'd do his signings, and just everyone who comes up just tells him how much they love the stuff he's created. I mean, I think that keeps him young.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, that's a motivating force. I mean, imagine if, like, every time you went out to some place, you just had a whole bunch of people applauding and telling you how great you are and how much they love the things that you did. Yeah.
But I mean,
talking about when you go someplace other and it's just me telling you that.
I look at my household as an example. Now, my adoration and love for Stan Lee is rooted in the same way as yours is, from the comics. My kids know him as the guy that did the comics, and they know who he is and his place in history. My wife adores him. She absolutely adores him from the movies. So much to the point she got within, I'd say, probably about 10 feet of him at New York Comic Con before a bunch of stormtroopers just like kind of closed ranks, because she was seriously, she was going to sneak in because she was kind of behind him and off to the right. She was going to sneak up behind him and give him a peck on the cheek. So she was working her way in through this crowd, and there was a huge crowd for a signing.
Yeah.
And she just kind of snuck around behind the back, and I wish she had been able to pull it off, because that would have been awesome.
I'm sure that kind of thing happens like people making that attempt happens all the time, and those guys are purposely, these are professional handlers that, I mean, they do the same thing with rock stars and, movie stars and all the other kind of things. And it's the kind of celebrity he is. I mean,
yeah, he's definitely a celebrity.
That, their job is to keep people away from him, and, for good reason too. Cause I mean, Stan's 92 or 93, whatever, and it's like, someone could give him a big, strong hug and like just snap him like a twig, probably.
Right, right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You never know. Or, give him a germ and then he gets the flu and dies. I don't know. You get to a certain age, you got to watch out for these things. It's just. But, I think it keeps him young. I think having the fans and everything is.
It's got to be hard too, because. He's tough. He's a survivor, and all of his contemporaries are falling. They're dropping. And pretty soon he's going to be the last man standing, and that's got to be difficult. Yeah. So
makes all the guys who are on those fan boards where they think he's just. The devil incarnate, just probably sits poorly with them.
Right.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I don't get it, but I've always enjoyed the guy. And the thing that is weird to me is like Stan is the guy who pioneered, I believe, getting creators name credit in the comic books.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And for all these guys to like be saying he's like the credit hog and like taking credit for all these things, it's like it's always Stan and Jack and Stan and Steve and and he made a lot of these guys be a known name.
Exactly. Well, when we both
by putting their names in books.
You look at a DC book from the 60s, you look at a Marvel book. DC book, you may or may not know who the creators are. With Marvel, not only did you know who the creators are, but you actually felt a connection in some way.
Right.
They gave him a funny nickname. These guys sounded like they were fun. He would do the bullpen bulletins, and it sounded like a fun place to work. So you really felt a connection that these guys were doing it for you. They weren't just making a product and throwing their names on it. They were making something fun. We made this. This is amazing. This is for you. And that's from, the guy at the top, Stan Lee Presents. Right. All right, he's like the cool grandfather. Roy was like the cool uncle, And then it just goes all the way down the line till, I, as an 8-year-old kid, I shouldn't know who my colorist is, but I did.
Yeah, I know. Even, just the concept that there was a colorist
right,
and
a letterer. What are you talking about?
Things. Or even an inker, called them the embellisher sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's just, it opened up this world. And then, it only took a few years before DC followed suit and started doing it also. So you come along after that, and it's just like, it seemed like that was always the way that it is. It was, and it wasn't. It was Marvel that did that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow.
Hey, I got a quick change of topic now. I talk about estate sales.
Oh.
To the king of estate sales.
My specialty.
I have attempted to follow in your footsteps with zero success.
Oh, no.
Southern California, it's just like there are so many people in Southern California who have apparently no productive work other than just doing this as a living.
Really?
It's just like I went to a couple of auctions, I went to some estate sales, and it's like every single opportunity there is to get something like that, there is this usual crowd of guys that I recognize from the Frankenson warehouse show and other things. And they're comic shop owners, because there's several comic shop owners. I mean, there's probably, 50 comic shops in Orange County, Los Angeles County, right? I mean, they're all over the place. And, if 10 of those comic shops have guys that are going to go out prowling around, I mean, that's 10 more than you've got to contend with.
Right.
And then there's all these dudes that just sell on eBay like you do. But they it's their job. That's their whole thing, because they're out during the day. I mean, I'd like sneak out of work on a weekday when they'd have something. You get there, and if you're not there like the second that they open, it's like these guys have already been there and picked it clean of everything.
Right.
Hell, I went yesterday just to Best Buy to get I wanted to get the Steelbook edition of Guardians of the Galaxy. That was a Best Buy exclusive. I had a dentist appointment, went right after the dentist to the Best Buy that was pretty close to the dentist's office, got there at 10 minutes after 10. They opened at 10, went in, didn't see the Steelbooks. I'm like, where are the Steelbooks for Guardians of the Galaxy? And they go, there was 2 guys waiting at the door when we opened, and they bought all of them.
Oh, my God. See, these are the guys I don't like.
And it's the same thing with back when I was collecting action figures.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. It's these same guys. They're standing at the Toys R Us and the Target. The second that they open, they buy every Chase Hot Wheel, every Chase action figure, everything. And then they take it and they sell it on eBay. They sell it, and that's their job. They don't do anything else. They're very expert at knowing. So I can't compete with that. It's just like I give up. It's like it's not even worth my time to even try to go to an estate sale or an auction in Southern California.
Wow.
Because these guys are there and they're just in it. They're in it, and they're going to buy the stuff and they're going to turn around and resell it.
Yeah, I really have a disdain for the guys that buy up new stuff and then resell it. See, my thing is I just look for the treasures, the stuff that people just don't. And I'm not taking advantage of anybody. It's just junk to them, but it's not to me. It has some value to me, and if it has some value to me, it'll have value for somebody else. But yeah, I think it's a little more competitive out there, because I know where I am, there's not a lot of people that look for vintage toys like I do. I know there's a big vinyl contingent, because I see the same guys at every sale looking at vinyl. there's a handful of companies that we deal with, that we see all the time, that we know the owners, that we have a good working relationship, and they'll give you a heads up if you're a good enough customer of, you know, something that you're looking for. Oh, I got this sale coming up. There's a lot of good toys there. Or this sale's a dog. Don't waste your time. But we've been doing it for so long. I mean, it's our Saturday ritual, and that's what me and my wife do every Saturday. And some weeks we'll come home empty-handed. Some weeks we'll do really well. The last couple of months have not been good. I've got to be honest. Last year, the amount of merchandise I was selling on eBay basically paid for Christmas for everybody. And that's, you know, with iPads and laptops and all that stuff. This year, not even close. And I don't know if the area's just dried up or, you know, could be any number of factors. But the other thing is, too, you really have to know your geography, and you have to become a bit of a social engineer and a real detective. And when you're going through the house, you'll know in the first few minutes whether you're wasting your time or not, whether you're looking for something.
Right.
I can walk into a house and I'll look at the library and I'll look at the books. And if I see a lot of travel books, to me, people that are traveling a lot, like over Europe, Asia, probably don't have kids, because it's expensive.
And they also probably are not into like the vintage toys. You know, those people, they're going to have stuff. They'll have little knickknacks and curios that they bought in the different countries, or maybe they'll have, you know, China or figurines or something like that that's not in your wheelhouse, right? So that's something that somebody else may be looking for, the exact sign that you're not looking for, right?
A newer neighborhood that's 10, 15 years old, I stay away from, because I know what it's. If there are any toys, they're going to be from the 90s, you know, and that's just not my thing. You know, they'll have a big bin full of Happy Meal toys because somebody told them that these Happy Meal toys get valuable, and they never do. I fill up my shelves with this nonsense for a quarter, you know, if I see anything superhero related. But other than that, I look for a neighborhood that the houses were built in the 60s, 70s, or the 50s. And I know that the owners are probably about my parents' age, so that their kids are maybe about my age. If the house is too neat, the toys are gone, because the parents get rid of the toys as soon as the kids outgrow them.
Because they're neat freaks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
If the house is a little sloppy, you know you're going to find something up in the attic.
Yeah. You want a house that's got like clutter. I mean, they got to have a lot of stuff on the shelves, right? I mean, it's just, that's the kind of thing where people have that collector gene, or that, you know, they don't throw stuff away. They're going to have stuff. You know, you look here, look behind you. You know, it's like this is what, you know, someone's going to be looking for. You know, it's just
I had thought about that. What would an estate sale in my house? What would it be like? Would there be some dude that would be driving from Connecticut and see this room and just go crazy? You know, because there's just stuff everywhere. But that's the way I like it. A little bit of clutter. Like this. I have a
Does this look familiar to you?
Hey, look at that. That's a beauty. That's a beauty. Is that your first Batmobile?
No, you sold me this.
No. But do you have others?
Oh yeah, I've got Batmobiles.
Yeah, you never talk about them. It's like you're ashamed of them.
I am. It's a dirty thing, a Batmobile.
Oh boy.
I've got the Lego Batmobile. I've got the Superpowers Batmobile.
Okay.
I was buying, I mean, this is actually from that 80s series. I was thinking of something different, but this is just, or not even, this is from like 2006, I think. I actually bought a lot of the Batmobiles in the series that Corgi did in the 2000s. So I have a bunch of those somewhere in a box. This one I'll leave out. I really want to get one of the actual 60s ones.
Those are nice.
That's got the Batman and Robin in it. You have one of those, right?
Hold on a second. Do this without correcting it. I am kind of torn what to do with this. I don't know if you can see it, but it's
That's the Black Beauty.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the Corgi Black Beauty. Oh, I love that. Is that the back from the 60s?
Yeah. It's in excellent shape. It's got Green Hornet and Kato.
If you want to sell that, I want to give me a...
I'll give you a heads
Tell
up.
me
I
what you
don't
want.
see. This is the thing. I don't know if I want to keep this.
I love the Green Hornet, and I love that car.
Let me see if we can get a close up of the Green Hornet there.
I would love to get my hands on one of those. I
Yeah.
had one of those when I was a kid, and I don't know. It's gone now. It's got a little screen that comes up in the back, right?
I haven't really played with it, but let's get some. Oh wait, let me see. Oh, it's got the. Let's see.
The machine guns in the front, the Ram or whatever. Yeah,
It's missing something, but it's pretty cool. But again, I don't know if I really like it.
Like I've got the Corgi James Bond.
See, that's what I
Aston
should do. I should trade that for the Aston Martin.
You're not getting my Bond. I like Bond.
Well, we'll see what happens with this. Maybe I'll send it to you with Trump. I don't know.
Trump and his plastic hair. That's where he's got real plastic hair.
Wow, all this talk about Stan Lee's got me.
In fact, here's another Batmobile that I have.
Ah, nice. That's one of my favorites.
So this is
So did you see the article about the
Opal collection or something? It's got like I think actually does the hood open up on this or something? Yeah, it does. You can actually see the engine inside.
Nice. Did you
It's
see that
got
the
Batman and Robin in it? Robin in the window there.
a boy wonder? Did you see that the very first licensed Batmobile went up for auction?
No.
Ah, yeah. It was a custom job back in 1963. Predates the TV
Like
show
the
version.
real size one?
Yeah.
Oh, so like the one that the guy made for the show.
No.
Was it like real? It wasn't for the show. It was just he made it for like tours or something.
He just made it, and it was the first one licensed by DC Comics as a Batmobile. So, and it didn't get nearly as much as they thought it would. I think it was in the mid hundreds, like 125,000, 137, somewhere in that range, which was they were thinking it was going to go for at least $500,000, but
That's like a really limited, audience for that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably 4 guys in the world, me being one of them, and I just didn't have that kind of cash on me.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's just like you have to both like that a lot and just have crazy sacks of cash laying around, right? I mean, like Jay Leno, if he liked Batman,
right?
Because he's got that huge car. I mean, $125,000 is nothing to Jay Leno. I mean, that's like cheeseburger money to that guy. I mean, it's just like whatever. If he knew about that, cared, he could buy that. He's in the cars. Jerry Seinfeld loves cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
He likes Superman, but I don't know if he likes Batman. Jerry Seinfeld could buy that if he wanted to. He's all also, got so much money that would be
I told Becca recently that if we ever hit Powerball,
insignificant. But
I would buy Batmobiles. That would be my thing. Not big houses, not just Batmobiles and some really expensive key comics.
Yep.
You paid $1 million what for that? Yes, I did.
I mean, it would go fast if you were like, what did that action go for? Like $3.2 million or something?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of coin.
Yeah, but do you think, well, that's gotta be like a balloon. That balloon is gonna burst at some point, you think, don't you?
I don't know. I mean, it's just it really depends on if it's all buyers and sellers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guys who bought that are the guys who own Metropolis Comics.
Right.
It's
yeah, but they don't want it to own it. They just want to flip it at some point, I would think.
I think that they want to own it for a period of time and then they want to sell it, but until they can sell it for $4 million, they'll just, or until Metropolis Comics goes bankrupt and it has to get sold as an asset of the corporation. I think it's just, they're probably happy to have it sitting there as something that is an advertisement. They own this highest condition 9.2 Action Comics #1. I mean, they haul that out at different shows and, it's all, I'm sure it's insured. That's the kind of thing where, hey, it's probably insured for more than they paid for it, with some kind of appreciation thing built into it,
Right.
and
yeah, it makes me wonder, what if they do go belly up? Can we pick this thing up for pennies on the dollar?
I suspect that there would be an auction, and whoever's going to show up at that auction, that's like when Torpedo Comics went out of business in Vegas, and I bought a bunch of stuff from them on their auction. I mean, a lot of people bought a lot of things there, a lot of shops, because whenever there's like a big collection that gets sold, or like a store inventory, it's like anything. I mean, if someone wanted to sell my collection or your collection, they could get way more money if they sold it item by item.
Right.
And took time and effort to do that, right? But you're trading off near-term immediate money versus having to spend a tremendous amount of time and effort to sell out the stuff individually.
Right.
So usually what happens is they pick, I mean, they wouldn't sell Action 1 or some of the other key things. I mean, they would be their own item. But a lot of that stuff, they just bulk out. I went to an auction that was some dude's like 30-year comic collection. Mm-hmm. And I thought that they were going to individually sell a lot more things. And they didn't. I mean, they sold like, here, we're selling this case full of stuff. And it's got like Spider-Man number 2 through 50 in it or something.
Wow.
It's like a bunch of other stuff. And it went for, I don't remember. I mean, it went for a lot more. I mean, I wasn't in the market for it because I had it, but if they would have sold them individually, they would have gotten a lot more for them. But it was the same thing. It was like every one of these comic shop owners was at this auction, and, they were all buying the stuff up, and they did buy it for pennies on the dollar. They bought, like I saw, like they were selling, like, here's a long box full of comics, and, they'd look through it in advance, and they were looking for, something that would have hot comics in it. And some of those long boxes went, I thought every one of them went for way more than I thought it was going to go for. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they went for anywhere from $40 or $50, which is actually not a bad price if, because there's a couple of hundred comics in a long box. So if a shop just wants to have stuff for their dollar bin, and maybe there's a couple of books in there that are worth a little more, like one of them, it had that Mad Love, or not Mad, like one of those like early Harley Quinn Joker books. They had like 2 or 3 copies of that in there. And it's probably a $10 or $20 book. So that box sold for, I don't know, like let's say $150. But it's like, you know, I look at it and it's like, well, I've got 90% of the book, 95% of the books in there. And if I want like this one comic in it, it's not worth it to me to buy this entire box for $150. What am I going to do? I don't want to have to sell the whole rest of it.
Right, you'll just have dead stock.
So that is where a reseller has a serious advantage in that kind of a thing. They had a whole case full of Stan Sakai art, and they sold it as a lot.
Wow.
And I would have bought, I mean, like they had a bunch of covers. They probably had 12 Usagi Yojimbo covers and a bunch of splash pages and a bunch of sketches.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I would have paid $500 for one of the covers.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, they sold it as a lot. And I think somebody paid like $5,000 or $6,000 for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a stack of art like this thick, you know, like maybe 30 pieces, which is not that big. But I didn't want to pay $5,000 for this, because then I don't need 30 pieces of Usagi Yojimbo art. You know, I would like to have one,
mm-hmm.
you know. And you know what'll happen is the guy who bought it, he's a dealer.
Yeah.
He's going to cherry pick out the 1 or 2 that he likes the best. They're going to go into his private collection, and he will resell all the other pieces and make more than $5,000 reselling all that other stuff.
Yep.
And, you know, he's now added to his collection for $0. I mean, and that's where, like, these guys who have, like, a shop and they have the big comic, you know, they have their private comic collection.
Yeah.
They have it all over me because, you know, if they buy some long box full of comics from some dude and they pay $50 for it, and they pull out of it, you know, a very fine condition copy of Spider-Man number 4, you know, that's worth, you know, $800 or whatever the hell it's worth, you know, they will say, oh, well, I've got a fine copy of it. Now they're going to take the fine copy out of their private collection, sell that one, take the very fine, stick it in their collection, and then sell that fine one and all the other stuff and for more than what they outlaid in cash in the first place.
Yeah,
but
I've
you
seen
know,
that firsthand. One more thing before I forget, about estate sales. I went to an estate sale and it was comic centric because they warned me about it the week before. They say you got to come to this one next week. There's a ton of Spider-Man and we know you're gonna love it. So I got there and there were a lot of books, and I hesitated on a couple of, they had a couple of key books. They had Amazing 50, 33, and a handful of other, you know, decent books in decent shape.